Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. We'll talk about the latest Arizona Town Hall report, which deals with the state's vulnerable populations. Plus, an annual art festival turns sidewalks into colorful canvases. And learn about classes helping to fill communication needs in healthcare. All this coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. For the past 5 decades, Arizona Town Hall has created a forum for Arizona leaders to offer solutions to our biggest problems. The latest town hall focused on what to do about Arizona's vulnerable populations. Joining me are 2 Arizona Town Hall participants, David Martinez III, Advocacy and Outreach Specialist for St. Mary's Food Bank Alliance, and Alberto Olivas, Director for Maricopa County Community College District Center for Civic Participation. Alberto is also an Arizona Town Hall board member. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight to discuss the most recent town hall. David, the focus was vulnerable populations. Vulnerable in what sense?
It was a difficult question for the town hall participants to answer because Arizona as a state has done a really bad job in identifying vulnerable populations in a way that really connects them with services and service providers. So with the help of the data and the reports that we got before the town hall, the participants really narrowed it down to 3 points: communities and populations that are in distress, that are worrying about where the next paycheck is going to come from, where the next meal is going to come from. And also the second point really is being on the verge of crisis, not being able to afford a medical bill that comes out of nowhere, or if your car breaks down, or God forbid you lose your job. And really the third point is that these populations are invisible in Arizona. They're on the extremes, on the fringes, and aren't able to utilize the services that do exist.
I saw some of the videos that were prepared in advance and heard Dean Capel of ASU talking about the need for a broad definition to include not only those people who are in distress, but those who are on the verge of distress, those living on the edge, because if we don't deal with those people, the expense in treating them when they do go into distress is going to be huge.
Actually, a lot of the discussion was more on the people that aren't already in crisis now, but the people that if one thing goes wrong for them, they're going to be in crisis. If they lose their job, if their car breaks down, if they get sick, or if they have an accident, then that can lead to all kinds of things going wrong for them because they don't have the preparation or the resources to be able to weather one of those sudden problems. And what was interesting about just having to define vulnerable populations was that a lot of the town hall participants themselves said, wow, I never realized I'm part of this group. I'm one of the vulnerable in Arizona. And some of the speakers talked about how 65% or more of the population in our state could technically be described as vulnerable because you don't have at least the resources to weather 3 months without your regular income, without missing house payments, without losing your car, without ending up on the street.
Alberto, before we go on, just briefly describe the town hall process for those people who aren't familiar with it.
So Arizona Town Hall has been around for over 50 years, and they have 2 major events every year where they bring together a group of 150 to 200 people that represent all of the communities in our state. So there's a lot of effort that goes in to make sure that the town hall participants represent rural and urban Arizona, all the ideological spectrum, conservative, libertarian, liberal, all the ethnic communities and tribes. So what we do is we bring together people that can really represent the state and discuss an issue that affects the whole state and come out with a set of recommendations that represent what we as Arizona think should be done about that issue. In this case, it was vulnerable populations. So who do we define as vulnerable, and what do liberal and conservative, rural and urban Arizonans think we should do as a state at different levels, from the small one-on-one neighborhood level all the way up to potential legislation.
And David, I understand that one of the points of discussion at this town hall was the differences in impact for vulnerable populations depending upon whether they are in an urban setting or a rural setting.
Absolutely, and having been born and raised in Marana, Arizona, which is a pretty rural southern Arizona town, and now living in the urban center of Phoenix, I can understand the challenges that those populations have. Certainly being of a working class family, we saw the struggle on a daily basis, and working at St. Mary's Food Bank, we see that at our door every day as well. So the challenges are different based on the urban and rural communities. Some of the participants that were part of my panel in the town hall that represented rural Arizona, including Kingman, up north, part of the tribal lands in Sierra Vista, really reflected some really important issues that were facing rural Arizona and the populations in there, like transportation and having access to the services that do exist. But then considering the fact that those that transportation infrastructure doesn't exist in rural Arizona like it does in urban areas like Phoenix and Tucson.
And as I understand, transportation is an issue not only in the rural areas for obvious reasons, but even in an urban area like Phoenix, where we're so dependent upon cars, and so many of the people in the vulnerable populations don't have cars.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the best recommendations that came out of the town hall, was that vulnerable populations are having to base their schedule around, or have to deal with working full-time, often two jobs, picking up their kids from childcare, and then figuring out the transportation infrastructure that does exist in cities like Phoenix to try to access these benefits. So one of the recommendations was to set up sort of one-stop shops where folks in vulnerable populations can access a variety of services. And it's something that we actually have been doing at St. Mary's Food Bank in our Phoenix campus, where not only can people access emergency food if they need it, but they can also access the local DES office, the local WIC office, and enroll in
So
SNAP
kind of
food
a
stamps.
one-stop shop.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the
Alberto, speaking of the recommendations, let's talk about them. What were the recommendations of particular note?
Well, one of the big themes in the recommendations was being, well, how do we make people more aware of existing resources and services? So what was really neat was that it wasn't a bunch of recommendations about let's create a whole lot of new government services and programs, as much as people don't know what is available to help them. A lot of the people that we would call vulnerable don't think of themselves as vulnerable. So when something happens and they're without transportation, do they know what's available, how to get around town? Senior citizens suddenly can't drive anymore, their kids take their keys. Do they know how, what is the support network for seniors to get to their medical appointments or so forth? We heard stories about people in rural Arizona that didn't know they had public transportation. They thought, oh, I thought that was just for people that were sick to get their appointments. So there was a lot of different kinds of recommendations about how to do more awareness raising about issues, how to help people do more planning ahead of time to prepare for the future, save and retirement planning and so forth. And so there was a lot of recommendations about what can we do at the local community level, but there were also some really strong recommendations about things that the state should do.
And you indicated when we were talking off camera that some of these were fairly controversial.
Oh yeah, I was very surprised, having attended numerous Arizona town halls where they come out with a lot of vague general recommendations oftentimes, but one thing that I didn't expect to make it into the final report was a recommendation supported by town hall participants to increase the minimum wage to $10.50 an hour, which is more than they're pushing for at the federal level. Another recommendation that made it in was to revisit mandatory sentencing and reform how we do sentencing in our state. And then another recommendation that I think was very interesting was to establish a tax credit that people could qualify for conducting certain financial resiliency activities. So if you do certain kinds of saving or asset building, you can get rewarded for that in your taxes. And so that would help you even further to build up your assets that can help you weather a crisis.
And one of the things that struck me about Dean Coppell's comments on this subject was that the problem's so big it's hard to get your arms around it. David talked about differences between urban and rural areas. How do you come to consensus to the point where you can make recommendations like these?
Oh, it's a fascinating process. So we have anywhere from 150 to 200 people broken into groups of about 30. And each of the groups are having the same conversation at the same time with the trained facilitator and a recorder. And so what happens is the facilitator takes the group through each of the questions, and the recorder and the facilitator are looking for what are the things that are said that everyone kind of agrees to. This is an issue, this is a problem, this is what we want to see happen, this is a need. And they're just writing down those consensus points. So they're not writing down all of everything that's discussed, only the things that everyone can kind of say, yeah, we agree with that as a group. Then the notes from those consensus points get all fused together in a big report, and on the last day, all of the groups come together and they go through it from page 1 to page done, and they just hash it out and argue until we come out with a set of recommendations that the whole group says we can live with that. Not everyone agrees with every single point, but the recommendations in there really do represent what most Arizonans agree to and want to see happen.
David, this was your first town hall.
Correct.
Your impressions as to how well the process works?
I was very impressed by the process. It was very thorough, and I think it's testament to the success of having community civil dialogue representing the entire region, the entire state, and really bringing together a community that is seeking good for the state of Arizona. And it's testament to the success of the town hall and over 50 years of productivity and making sound recommendations. What I really appreciated too was that it brought together diverse industries. So not only government leaders, but nonprofits, faith leaders, the business community, to come and reach consensus on pretty controversial topics like raising the minimum wage, which I think we agreed that it was necessary for businesses to offer and people to earn a living wage.
And
So, Alberto, last question, because we're almost out of time. What happens next? You've got some pretty controversial recommendations. Is it just go on a bookshelf?
Yeah, no. In the past, it was town halls really seem to be focused on how can we advise legislators about laws and law changes, and that's still one of the big focuses. But what's more powerful about it now is that after the town hall organization goes all over the state, and they have local meetings to present to the communities what are the recommendations, and then in each community have a conversation about what to do with those recommendations in a way that is germane to each of those local areas. So what are the recommendations? Which of these do we want to act on in Sierra Vista and in Kingman and in Holbrook and in Mesa? So how do we implement these things with what we have now with our local resources and talent and with our business leaders and nonprofits and local government agencies? And individually, what are the things we can do about this without waiting for the legislature to act?
So there's a lot of work yet to be done.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us on Horizonte to talk about what you did, and we'll see how it turns out.
Thank you very much.
you.
An annual art festival turned sidewalks into colorful canvases. The Southern Arizona Arts and Cultural Alliance organized the third Park Place Chalk Art Festival. AZPN's photojournalist Matt Enrichs shows us the artists and their works of art.
The third annual Park Place Chalk Art Festival. It's a spectacular showing of local artists throughout the state of Arizona, as well as a business support for the arts. The event was conceptualized as a creative way to do that, to attend the mall, but also have a spectacular experience outside of just shopping. Chalk is definitely something that it's a growing art form around internationally. So this is kind of a way to bring it to the locals here in Southern Arizona. Anyone could participate, emerging, established artists from any background or type of art specifically.
I'm Gina Rovato, and I've been a professional mural artist for about 20 years. Today I'm doing a portrait of Frida Kahlo. She was a famous female artist back in the early 1900s out of Mexico. She had a very painful life, and even through her pain she created beautiful pieces, and so that's kind of one of the reasons I chose her and one of the reasons I love her.
My name is Wesley Fawcett Cree. I'm an artist based in Tucson, Arizona. A lot of my work tends to be driven by social commentary or political commentary, and I like to do these events so I can kind of take a break from that and just focus on making a beautiful image. And in this case, you know, the image is a tribute to summertime or springtime in the desert when the saguaros are blossoming. I just think nature provides us with such beauty and such extravagance that we don't really need to look much further, or I don't tend to look much further. The hardest part is figuring out the the mechanics and subtleties of the chalk medium because normally I'm a painter. I start with a sketch. Then when I arrived here, the first thing I did was do an 8x6 square grid on the floor. So it translates directly from the sketch onto the surface.
The hardest part for me has been the size and being on the ground like this. I'm used to working on walls, so it's kind of hard on the body. And getting the perspective right when you're looking at down is also a little challenging. My favorite part is interacting, I think, with the people. Usually I'm painting in, people's homes, or I don't get a little audience, so that's been fun.
I really get a lot out of letting kids watch me work because I can see how inspired they get, and I remember as a kid myself how inspired I'd get watching artists work.
We have kids ages 2 all the way to 80 participating in their own signature murals. Over 3,000 children have participated in the murals over the course of 2 days.
Artists do what they do because they feel good doing it in the moment. And we get satisfaction from having pieces that last, but most of all we do it because it feels good in the very moment that we're making stuff.
The fact that they're not permanent it's kind of cool because you think, it's almost like people are going to view this and then it'll rain and be gone. Kind of like music.
All the murals will be on display for up to 45 days following the event, so you can come experience this for a long time after this weekend.
Our more observant viewers may have noticed that the tie I'm wearing tonight bears some images that are taken from one of the most famous Frida Kahlo paintings, as you can see in this close-up. It's very similar to the images you just saw in the video that we presented. I just want you to know it's purely coincidental, but perhaps appropriate given that we celebrated Cinco de Mayo earlier this week. Communicating with healthcare personnel or your doctor is often a difficult situation when you aren't feeling well or you are experiencing a traumatic situation. Imagine if you couldn't communicate due to a language barrier. Joining me to talk about courses and programs to address such challenges are Dr. Angela Felix, Rio Salado College's Faculty Chair for Languages, and Carrie Peña, Manager of the Spanish Medical Interpreter Program at Estrella Mountain Community College. Thank you both for joining us this evening. Dr. Felix, let's start with you because Rio Salado has been a leader in this area in terms of language programs, and this started, about 2006? Give us some background.
Absolutely. In 2007, we partnered with...
I was close.
You were very close. And I think probably the idea was generated around 2006, but we actually finalized the partnership with Phoenix Children's Hospital in 2007 to put the curriculum that they had prepared for Spanish bilingual assistants online because they wanted to reach a larger audience than they were able to reach with their in-person classes. So with the online curriculum, we're able to offer courses in rural areas. We're able to offer courses at a time that's convenient for the students, and we are not bound by location.
Carrie, you are the manager of the Spanish Medical Interpreter Program at Estrella Mountain Community College. Tell us about that program, then I want to see how it interacts with what the district is doing at Rio Salado.
So our program is a face-to-face program, so different than the Rio classes where they're online. So students come onto our campus and they take the classes there. And our program started in 2008 and has been running pretty well since then. And pretty much our courses are articulated to the courses at Rio. So the courses that they teach, our program articulates to, and the students receive credit through our community college, 12 credits actually for taking the courses with us, which is 170 hours and a certificate of completion program.
And a crucial distinction, though, between the two programs is that at Estrella Mountain Community College, they can go through an externship program.
Correct, yes, I forgot about that. But that's the very, it's a very important part of the program is the externship at the end of the program where they all attend a 40-hour externship at one of the hospitals that we partner with. And there's several of them, Scottsdale Healthcare and Maricopa and Banner Estrella has just came on board with us, and Banner Desert Medical Center, St. Joe's. So they do have a lot of opportunities, as well as the remote interpreting locations such as Seracom and TransPerfect, where there is a big demand for interpreters right now for over-the-phone interpreters. So.
Dr. Felix, who are the people who are the targets for this kind of program? Who would benefit the most?
Really, these courses and programs are designed for bilingual individuals, but they do not need to have any training in the medical profession. We provide that training during these programs, whether they're doing it in the online environment or they're doing it in person.
At what cost?
The cost is very reasonable. It's $81 per credit hour, and the courses are 3 credit hours each. So locally and nationally, it is a wonderful opportunity for bilingual individuals to get their foot in the door in these professions.
And as I understand it, it's not just the educational part of it, because some of these people may be very, very fluent and capable of getting a job, but employers are looking at the credential.
Absolutely. It's not the same just to have a bilingual employee that is able to speak in Spanish and English, because interpretation is a specialized skill. So now the employers are looking for individuals that not only have the ability to speak both languages, but they actually have that cultural sensitivity and the know-how to behave in interpretive encounters. So it's really something that the employers are looking for now more than ever.
And you touched upon one of the things that I think actually is covered at Estrella Mountain, and that is the cultural sensitivity. One of the examples that's given in some of your materials is the possibility of what could be a very serious misinterpretation when you have a Spanish-speaking client who complains about mal de ojo, which
Correct.
literally means bad eye, but
Correct.
for most Mexicans, at least of a certain generation or Spanish speakers, literally in their culture means it's a curse. They feel that they've
Yes,
been cursed.
Correct. Yeah, there is a lot of different cultural backgrounds and sensitivities that the students need to be aware of, and so we try to go through all of them as much as we can. And we also have a lot of students with those backgrounds, so it's really great to see them all together and hear about the different cultural backgrounds that they have and sharing with each other, and just making sure they are aware of if a patient reacts a certain way, how to cope with that.
And we talked for a moment to Dr. Felix about credentials.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that people can get if they go through the program is certification. Tell us about that.
So certification is now available, it just began available in 2010, and national certification is offered through 2 organizations. And most hospitals now are starting to make it mandatory that their interpreters receive national certification, whether it be from either or facility. Our program actually is built to exceed the training standards for one of the organizations, the National Certification Interpreters Healthcare Commission. And so the students finish, we hope they do get the certification. And our site at Estrella Mountain, we're the only facility that offers the oral certification. So I actually proctor
And that's the only
exams.
facility in Maricopa County, is that right?
Right now, I think we may be the only ones in Arizona. There could be one in Tucson that I'm not sure of, but pretty much for Maricopa, yes, we're the only ones that do the testing. Yeah.
Dr. Felix, what does this mean in terms of job opportunities?
The interpretation field is really growing, and a point that we need to remember is because of the Affordable Care Act, we have a lot more individuals that will have access to health care, and many of those individuals are Spanish speakers, and so there will be more opportunities in healthcare situations for students to be employed to serve this ever-growing population. And we just want to make sure that these individuals have the appropriate cultural knowledge, vocabulary, and ability to deal with these interpretive situations that are often very sensitive. So it's really an important need that we're filling in the community to make sure that we have qualified interpreters in the field.
Carrie, talk about the relationships with the hospitals. You listed a number of them that are involved here. How does it work in terms of setting up the externships?
We have great partnerships with the hospitals, and they all do the externships because they want to give back. So they're really enthused about having their trained interpreters, be a part of mentoring and helping the new interpreters coming into the career. So pretty much the externship partners have to go through a legal contracting process with our district, the Maricopa Community College District. And then once that's completed and all the liabilities are taken care of, then I can start setting up the students for externships. And some of them have a pre-externship interview and they talk to the students over the phone and just want to make sure they're able to be, ready for the type of situation, which some of them, they do have trauma situations, so they want to make sure the students are prepared for that, which we try to do for all the students. But the hospitals are just really great at wanting to work with us and, be a part of training our future
Well, it
interpreters.
sounds like a wonderful program, lots of job opportunities and relatively inexpensive education.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us on
Yes.
Horizonte to talk about it.
Thank you.
That is our show for tonight from all of us here at 8 in Horizonte. I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good night.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.